Hello Patriots, and welcome to the channel again. On today's video, we're going to be discussing things that Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear doesn't seem to understand, but things that he should be understanding. And it's really just going to make you shake your head that why doesn't this guy have a basic understanding of these things? And as we go through them, you're going to be just flabbergasted. Oh yes, your gast is about to be flabbered. So sit back and let's talk about 10 things that Andy Beshear obviously doesn't understand. Thing number one, I don't think he understands about how the virus works. In his press conference on August the 5th, he said that he is considering issuing a 10 o'clock curfew on all restaurants and bars to help spread the COVID-19 virus. First of all, I don't think he understands that this virus also exists over at Walmart and Target and Lowe's and all these other places, but he's just saying, well, hey, at 10, it's dangerous if you're in a bar or a restaurant. And why 10 o'clock? Is it not dangerous at 9, but it is dangerous at 10? I don't think he understands that it is the same all day long, and he obviously doesn't have an understanding of that. Let's talk about the number two thing that he doesn't seem to have an understanding of. He doesn't seem to have an understanding that his order in place right now, which commands that restaurants be 75% empty at all times, is destroying a key Kentucky business. Not only are businesses closing permanently because of this, and of course all the employees are losing their jobs, people are losing their homes because of this, because they no longer have a means to pay their rent or to pay their mortgage. And we are going to have thousands of Kentuckians lose their homes. He's treating this like it's just kind of an inconvenience, bear with me. No, this is destroying lives. I don't think he seems to understand that there's a lot of people that have saved up for college for years, and now that money has been lost. I know even our families had to have some very serious and somber conversations about paying for school if it's going to be possible, because the economy has been destroyed by Governor Beshear's commands. Let's talk about a number three, the thing that he doesn't seem to understand. And for this, let's go to an article from WDRB. They were talking about some of the things that the governor's not seeming to understand. Notice the headline, Beshear says state considering 10 p.m. curfew for bars, restaurants to curb spread of COVID-19. Then notice this part in the article that we have highlighted. And by the way, I have a link to this article so you can read the whole thing for yourself in the description of this video. It says, the governor said that if people comply with a mask mandate and physical distancing, they can attend bars and restaurants. Oh, thank you, Mr. Governor, for giving me permission to go out to eat. But then notice what else it says. It says, but they cannot leave those establishments and then head to private parties with lots of people. Which leads us to the number four thing. He says he doesn't seem to understand that he does not have any authority, legally, morally, whatsoever, to tell Americans, specifically Kentuckians in this case, where they can go. I'm not allowed to go to my own friend's house. And he doesn't seem to understand that he has no authority to tell me that. He also has an order in effect saying you are not allowed to have 10 people in your own home. He doesn't seem to understand, hey, bud, you don't have any authority to tell me who I can have in my own house that he is not paying for, and he's sure not helping pay the mortgage. In fact, he's doing the opposite of that. Things he doesn't understand, but he should. Let's talk about a number five thing, the thing that he doesn't seem to understand. And he doesn't seem to understand the survivability of this virus. It is a real virus, and it does kill some people. However, one of the things that you'll notice in all of his press conferences that he has given now for months, for he's had almost every day 1 free hour of TV time and radio time, and he's never bothered to give you this information. But based on his own statistics from his own press conference, using August the 5th, today's numbers, the mortality rate of COVID-19, people who have it, who die from it, cases in Kentucky, the mortality rate is 0.29%. You know what that means? It means the survivability of people who do have it who are younger than 60 years old in Kentucky is 99.71%. That's not just the total population. That is the number, according to his numbers, of the cases of people who do have it. A 99.71% survivability rate. How come that's not being pushed out in his press conference? I don't think he seems to understand, while it is a real virus that kills 0.2% of people, 99.7% of people who do have it survive and get over it and just have the flu for about 2 weeks. I don't think he seems to understand that. Let's talk about the number 6 thing that he obviously does not understand. And he does not understand the difference between what the government is supposed to be doing and what he is doing. The government's job and the proper role of government is to protect my constitutional rights, not to protect my health. That is the responsibility of the individual. But he doesn't seem to understand that's not government's job. Government's job is to protect your rights and your property. I mean, that's what his job is. He doesn't seem to understand that his individual liberty is what America was built upon. Let's talk about the number 7 thing that he obviously does not understand. He does not understand how the United States Constitution is set up with a separation of powers. We have 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, judicial. One of them, the legislative branch, makes the laws. The executive branch enforces the laws. He doesn't seem to understand the basic concept of the Constitution's separation of powers, because he's going around acting like that he's supposed to make up the law, and then he can also enforce the law that he just makes up on a daily basis. Obviously does not understand the Constitution's separation of powers. Let's talk about the number 8 out of 10 things that he obviously does not seem to understand. He doesn't seem to understand the Bill of Rights. In the Bill of Rights, first of all, it gives you the freedom of religion. Well, he's tried to shut down churches and shut down people going to choir practice. Oh, you can go to a riot and you can go to the abortion clinic, but you're not allowed to go to church. He doesn't seem to understand that he has no authority to do that. The courts had to step in and remind him, hey, Andy, you can't be doing that. And that's why we can still have church services today. He doesn't seem to understand the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech, because there's been people such as myself that have protested against him in public, and he tried to shut all that down. He doesn't understand we have the freedom to do that. And he doesn't also understand the Bill of Rights on the freedom of assembly, which means I'm allowed to get together with a group of people. And he is saying, hey, I say you're not allowed to get along with people of more than 10 or more. The freedom of assembly doesn't say unless there's a virus. It just says you have the right of freedom of assembly. He also doesn't seem to understand the difference between a riot and a protest, because in the Constitution's Bill of Rights it says you have the right to peaceably assemble. And we've got people who have threatened to burn Louisville down, who are looting stores, throwing bricks through windows, and he's perfectly okay with that. And then a group of people who just want to get together, wave American flags, sing the national anthem, but speak against him, he's not okay with that. Doesn't seem to understand the difference between a riot and a protest and what is constitutionally protected in the Bill of Rights. The number 9 thing that he obviously does not seem to understand is that this is an unemployment crisis. It's not an unemployment, that's a problem that's inconvenient for a few people. Because of his orders, he has put people out of work now for months. There are still today more than 66,000 Kentuckians who have been put out of work because of his orders, who have not received any unemployment check at all, and they filed back in March. I don't think he seems to understand that that's not just an inconvenience for people. People who have no income because of his orders for months, this is a crisis of a life-shattering, changing proportions. And he's just going around saying, well, be patient with this as we deal with this. People who haven't got paid since March, it's tired of being patient. It's time to have some real decisive action about that. Which leads us to the 10th and final thing that he doesn't understand. I don't think that he understands that you should have people do things because they're qualified and not have people do things just because they're contributors to his campaign. Remember last month he had the Jefferson Davis statue removed from the Kentucky Capitol? He did that at a cost of $225,000, not to people that bid for the contract or who were necessarily experienced at this, but to his campaign contributors. And he gave them the contract in less than 12 hours. And nobody else was allowed to bid on it. He also gave being in charge of Kentucky's unemployment system to one of his campaign contributors, a guy by the name of Muncie McNamara, who had zero experience in government, zero experience in unemployment systems, and yet he put him in charge of the unemployment system in Kentucky, and it was a disaster. He also paid him $15,000 more than his predecessor that Governor Bevin had put in office, a guy who actually had experience in running unemployment systems. So there's 10 things Governor Andy Beshear obviously doesn't understand, but he should be understanding these things. Lord help us to get someone who has better understanding in the next election. It's amazing, but he's only been in office 6 months, and we don't get to elect a new governor until 2023. Can't get here fast enough as far as I'm concerned. May the Lord send us a wiser and better common sense governor and lieutenant governor in 2023. I also hope this has given you a better appreciation for governor elections. In one way, governor can have more impact on your life than even the president can. Make sure to always vote principle first and policies over just personalities. Well, until next time, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point. Stand strong, Kentucky.